Hi, this is Misha, and we usually do AK videos, and so anytime I get a chance to show an AR that actually interests me, I always like to do it. And on the table I've got a couple of the guns that, at least of December of 2017 coming into January of 2018, CDNN down in Texas are selling off. They have some police trade-in Colt guns. These are older guns, they're not super old. Looks like they're anywhere from the 90s through the 2000s, so they're anywhere from 20 to 10 years old, in that range. And I brought out a couple that I thought was interesting. First off, we have one you don't commonly see. This is a Colt LE6320. And here we have a gun that's kind of interesting. This is a Colt. It was labeled as a 6520, but it actually seems to be a variant in the maybe 6530 range. These are all police guns, so there are some bizarre factory configurations, and this is definitely one of them. We'll get into a couple of things that are different about it. And they have plenty of others. They even have some that are basically one-off guns, or 3 or 4 only. The 6320, though, I thought was worth making a video on because it's an interesting variation. Even though these were produced long after the adoption of the M16A2, and even this one was produced after the US adopted the M4, this was a special contract that was offered to police departments. And the key difference is we have non-adjustable A1 sights. You see there's no wheel down here for elevation, and the windage is the old A1 style. If you look, we have the A1 flip sight. Some manufacturers call these field sights. And it has an interesting front post. I don't know if this was added by the police department or not, but it's a large front post to go with. And the idea was some police departments wanted simple sights for two main reasons. One, they didn't want their officers accidentally or intentionally messing with the zero. These things rode around in trunks or in gun racks. Things could happen. They went from officer to officer. They wanted the sights to stay more or less zeroed. Second, the A1 sights are more durable than the A2 because they're simpler. Especially this base. There's nothing to move to get knocked out of alignment like the A2 will let down in this one. Also, it saved a little on the weight. Not much, but a couple ounces matter. Other features of the 6320, we have a AR15 style stock. So this was probably made before 2000 or thereabouts, because that's about when the M4 started to come in. It is the later 4-position style. See? We have an A2 grip. This is all pretty standard down here. We have AR15 A2 lightweight marked on the side. Colt's manufacturing. And on the reverse we have something that when they first came out with it I didn't like. They're restricted government law enforcement only, but over the last few years those markings have become quite collectible, so who knew. We also have the earlier style 6-hole handguards, kind of made out of the more Bakelite material versus the polymer we see today. And we have the pencil profile barrel. So this is the same profile used, for example, in the M16A1 and the original XM177 series. Now this one has a 1 in 9 twist rate. We have a removable A2 birdcage flash hider, and we have a bayonet lug, which, since we have the 16-inch barrel versus 14.5, isn't really all that useful. And we have a standard bottom-mounted front swivel. This is otherwise a pretty standard AR15. Mil-spec trigger, forward assist, brass deflector. Really, it's this combination of A1 sights and brass deflector that make this upper quite unique. It also harkens to the Canadian C8A1. Internally, these do have the webbing to prevent a full auto or 3-round burst or a lightning link. This is something Colt started doing in the late 80s, early 90s. At first they would pin in blocks, and then later they would just leave this unmachined in the receiver. A pretty standard hammer. These have the bolt carriers that are completely cut back. Colt over the years has gone all kinds of ways. See, the whole bottom's removed where the full auto would have been. Over the years, Colt's completely removed them, removed part. The earliest SP1s, they just removed the first ½ inch. You can see that in our SP1 video. But as time went on, they would cut more and more back. And then, more recently, they've gone back to not even messing with it because it's not required. So yeah, it's a pretty standard gun as far as AR-15s, but it's an interesting Colt variation because of the sights. Notice it does have the older style selector that they used to put on semis, where it doesn't come up, it's more the military style. And it does have the older A1 grip where it's a little bit shinier material as well. Small differences, otherwise we're pretty well on A2 carbine. As for this gun here, it was a bit of a surprise. Namely that it's on a fixed stock, but they did have some come in. And this is a Colt factory fixed stock. I can't really say more than that if it came on it or not. It probably did, because the police department's ordered several different configurations. This has the standard A2 rear sight. See here with the adjustment for elevation and the knob adjustment for windage. And like I said, this makes this a little more delicate. I can even move it with my hands. It'll return, but it's just a little more delicate, even though it gives you more adjustment. Mechanically, all that's the same. Same LE restricted markings on this side. Same Colt Carbine A2 markings on this side. This has the newer 7-hole handguards made of the slightly more modern polymer material. Probably more durable, frankly, but not as cool. This has a standard A1 front. Well, no, excuse me, A2. I felt it wrong there, guys. A2 front post, the square type. We have a pencil barrel with an A2 flash hider. And interestingly, this one is marked 1-in-7 twist. So like I said, they would make them both ways. Has the storage compartment. Pretty typical, guys. Pretty typical. It's kind of an interesting hodgepodge. You got a rifle in the back, and then you have not just the carbine length barrel, but a pencil weight barrel. So it really handles a lot like an M16 A1, but even a little bit shorter and lighter. I have to admit, it's a pretty nice configuration. Really like it, because all the collapsing stock does is it lets you adjust the length of pull and also lets you get a couple of inches off for storage. But the trade-off is this stock is so much more sturdy and durable. It feels really fun. It feels really like a nice thing, and it's not necessarily a military configuration. And as I said, they have other configurations. From what I've seen, sorry guys, I didn't show you this. This one has the transitional pin here too. The original SP1s had a large diameter front pin. It was 0.32 inches. This has the military standard diameter front. Before they would go away from the two-headed pin completely with the SP1 and go to the smaller pin, they would do this intermediate step. We have a screw on this side, but then what looks like a normal pivot pin on this side. Now this one is not machined out. This is not machined here. Real late examples with this front small screw pin would even have the channel behind here machined out, meaning all you'd have to do is replace this pin with a standard detent spring and pin and you'd be fine. So it's just an interesting transitional step between the SP1 semi-auto styles and the more modern style, which is basically just what the military has always used. So this one has just a regular push pin. You can see the oil hole drilled out there for it. These are shipping in Colt boxes. They're coming with one mag. All I've opened have metal mags. Some have a 20, some have a 30. They have a Colt manual, and some are coming with slings. Some will have a basic 2-point sling like this one. Others will have a more fancy like Blackhawk type sling. Well, just thought we would share something that seemed interesting to me. If you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them. If you'd like to share your own Colt carbines or rifles, that'd be great too. If you liked the video, please click like, and if you have not already subscribed and could do so, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to support us, please check out our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.